Waukegan, Illinois.
So, what is your connection to Baltimore?
I'm a father, I'm a political activist, I'm a community activist. I work with the homeless. I'm a founder of the Baltimore Block. I'm part of a lot of different coalitions here in Baltimore. I'm a well-known individual. I'm a private business owner, sole proprietorship of Shorty's Underground Ribs and Shorty's Bootleg Barbecue. I'm an unpaid lobbyist in Annapolis and Washington, D.C. I'm a prisoners' rights advocate. I'm a member of Out for Justice. I got a man of many hats.
Okay. What is your experience like living in Baltimore as an African-American man?
Living in Baltimore as an African-American man is like living on a plantation in the 1800s. You gotta walk on eggshells where you go in communities that aren't communities of color. Roland Park, the Inner Harbor, Canton, Fells Point. You got two Baltimores. You got a black Baltimore. You got a white Baltimore. No, you got three Baltimores. You got a black Baltimore, a white Baltimore, and a money Baltimore. And the money Baltimore is more of a class caste type system. You know, you got to be an acceptable black to be around here. You can't be that hood black around here. You know?
So, where's the money Baltimore? Or is that within the two?
It's within the two.
Okay.
It would be like, where does Baltimore invest their money in? That's the money Baltimore. Canton, Fells Point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay.
Where they're doing the most redevelopment that's the money Baltimore. Okay. Where they're doing the least development at is the black Baltimore. Mm-hmm. You didn't want to do nothing in Sandtown until you had the riots, right? What made Sandtown so important? Because America was looking at Sandtown. They was looking where Freddie Gray. They was looking at the projects. The sex scandal that was been going on for a long time. Lucky Cosby told y'all about it a long time ago about the politics down there. But now all of a sudden, since we watching what happened to Freddie Gray and the world is watching Baltimore, we got the housing scandal that came out of it. Mm-hmm. So as long as they watching Baltimore, we got to show them what Baltimore is. We got to show them the three sides of Baltimore. We got to show them the racism that exists here. It doesn't just exist here in Baltimore. It exists across America. Being black and white America is a hard thing to do.
That's true. So now I'm going to transition to community activism questions. Can you describe the race relations in Baltimore before the uprising?
Before the uprising, we had racial issues. We've been having racial issues in Baltimore forever. I mean, but nobody never talked about it. They don't talk about it until it affects them. Before Freddie Gray, we had Anthony Anderson, we had Tyrone West, we had Maurice Donald Johnson, we had other people murdered by the police, and they were murdered. They were murdered. They were beaten to death. They were shot and killed, innocent, unarmed men. But nobody said nothing or did nothing about it. Now, when it happened to Freddie, it just was just like a boiling point. And the community got mad. And that community that they live in is one of the most militarized communities in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. So they just rose up like everybody else rise up. When you ain't got nowhere to go in the pot explodes. The police created that situation. The politicians created that situation because they wrote the laws that dealt with zero tolerance. They wrote those 1994 Crime Bill Act, that 3 strikes you out. They wrote those laws that reinvented Jim Crow in the black community.
Okay. So do you have any personal experience with police brutality or the justice system?
I got plenty of experiences with the police and police brutality in the justice system. I was personally making a documentary about the racism in the courts since 2006. I've been locked up in 2 different states for making this documentary, and I've been charged as a terrorist for doing this, all right? In 2007, I was locked up in Lake County, Illinois, and in 2011, I was locked up in Baltimore County, Illinois. In 2010, during the Bob Ehrlich, Gov.O'Malley debate at WJZ, on that evening, I had 12 Baltimore City police officers come in my house and 6 Maryland State troopers come in my house saying that I threatened Governor O'Malley. No paperwork, no proof, no evidence, no nothing. But that was the excuse they used to come in my house. And I called the Department of Justice, I called the FBI, and I recorded the calls because I record everything I do. And it's on YouTube. You can see it plain for day. I even filed paperwork with the Internal Affairs. Now, when I got locked up in 2011, that was like 4 months later. Everything that I turned over to Internal Affairs is gone. Everything I turned over to Frank Conway is gone. Everything that I turned over to the government is gone. And everything that I got locked up for on February the 7th, 2011 is gone. The government took a truck, a computer, 8 years worth of videos, 3 diaries, a camera, and original footage for the documentary about what we're talking about today, racism in our judicial system, racism in America, being black and white America. All this was on this film. So I'm like 5-6 years ahead of what we going through now. I'm like Chicken Little. I told you the sky was falling, now it is.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I can't believe they got rid of everything.
If you go, you can go on file. You can go to Congressman Cummings' office. You can go to Senator Cardin's office. You can even contact President Obama, because I got everything that I'm telling you documented. It's called the Minority Report. And now what I've been doing is keeping everything documented. I was an administrative assistant to the engineering officer in the U.S.S. Mississippi in 1977, 78, and 79. During Iran-Contra, I was around when they were transporting drugs and bringing it into the country. I was in the military. I was 17 years old. So if I knew this at 17 and I'm 57, how much knowledge do I got about our government? And I've been a caterer here in the Baltimore city, where I work for 85% of the richest people in this state. I've been in their houses, judges, lawyers, politicians, before the stock market collapsed. Dean Witter, Morgan Stanley. I've been in their houses. I know their game plan. I know what they've been planning to do. So that information alone makes me a dangerous individual.
To them.
It's the truth.
So are you, so you mentioned this, the organizations that you are part of, your social and political organizations that you are a member of in Baltimore. Can you talk about your activism in it, your leadership?
I'm a member of I'm finally a member of the Baltimore Block. We have a variety of members in the Baltimore Block. Founders was me, Pam, Iris, and some other Beth, Bruce, and some other individuals. We're multicultural because everybody live on the block, got different colors on the block. All right. We started doing this about police brutality when they were doing the build a jail up on Monument Street or Madison Street, when they was going to build that new youth jail. All right, so that's when we came into existence. And we came to existence, we started filming the police before it was popular. We not only filmed the police, we documented the police in negative interactions with the police, with the community, police abuses of their power, threatening individuals, illegally incarcerating people. Right now we're dealing with Keith Davis, an individual that was shot by the Baltimore City Police on false charges of a crime he didn't commit, that's still sitting in jail, been sitting in jail close to 2-3 years for a crime he didn't commit. So we rally around people like Tawanda Jones and the West family, where we'll be there every week consistently to give support to the community. We're a community activism group where we participate in feeding the homeless. We give away free books, free food. We've been doing a lot of things in the community that's not recognized by the powers that be, but they want to recognize us for our protests and things of that nature. We wouldn't have to protest if the politicians and the police would do their jobs and stop acting like we're non-existent. They are responsible to the people. The people aren't responsible to them.
Okay. Have you seen any change in Baltimore as a result of these events, protests?
We brung change when we brung out the numbers. We brung change when we put pressure on them. When we made them spend money for the policing, that brung change. When we bring the Department of Justice here, that brung change. You know, but that change is short-lived because they're not proactive in Baltimore. We're reactive, and we need to be more proactive. If we realize that when we did last year, when they had the march and they shut down Camden Yards, that was showed about money. They lost $100 million because they couldn't play baseball games here because of the fear of the uprising. So let's take that power that we had and uprise for some other than an incident that happened or a murder or something. Let's rise up because the distribution of wealth is unequal in Baltimore. Let's rise up and shut down things and be proactive instead of being reactive. Show them that you need to continue to do growth in our community instead of just giving us a Band-Aid on a problem that you ripped off and created.
Right. How would you describe communication with local officials and Baltimore City Police?
There is no communications with local Baltimore City Police. They'll talk to you in 1 minute and lie to you in the same breath. The only people that the Baltimore City Police talk to is people that they claim are voices in the black community. And those voices in the black communities ain't nothing but, they're not the voices in the black community, period. They're not. C.D. Witherspoon do not speak for the black community. He speaks for the People's Power Assembly. I don't know of any of these people that they claim are black voices that been doing anything in the black community other than getting on camera and being at rallies. I don't see none of their work in the community. Show me a church, show me a feed, and show me something that they doing in the community before I can sit here and say that's a black voice. But other than that, it's called black propaganda, COINTELPRO. You know what I'm saying? If the media put him on TV and the media is hailing him as a black voice, then you need to question what the media putting on TV and who they not letting be heard. You know what I'm saying? Who they blackballing, who they blacklisting. You feel me? So now we got to start controlling the narrative and not letting the mainstream media control the narrative. Shut them down. If that voice ain't a real voice in the community, shut it down. If that voice ain't a real voice in the community, challenge him. Challenge him.
Does the Freddie Gray incident surprise you? Why or why not?
Does the Freddie Gray
incident?
No, it don't surprise me. Look how many murders would happen before Freddie Gray. You had Ferguson, you had New York, you had Chicago, you had California. You got incidences that ain't even hit the media. No, it don't surprise me. And look how many happened since then. The only reason those officers got prosecuted was because of the uprising. That was it. Mosby had no intentions of beating that case. That same judge, Barry Williams, is sitting on Keith Davis's trial. And the same information that the state's attorney presented against Keith Davis, Judge Barry Williams found Keith Davis guilty of. But the same evidence, the way that she presented it against the police, he found him innocent of. You feel me? If you control the courts and you control the judges, lawyers, and the politicians, you're dealing with a rigged system, a system that's set up for failure in the black community. Give us equal access in the court. Give us access to the grand jury. Let us testify in front of the grand jury. Take the control and the power out of the state's attorney's hand and let the private citizen speak. Because if not, it's going to continue to happen. Politicians have created a system of justice in which protects them from prosecution and protects the police that are protecting the corruption that's going on here. If I killed a police officer, would I walk? If I beat a police officer to death like they beat Freddie Gray or Tyrone West or Anthony Anderson, would I walk? If I kicked a dog, would I walk?
What was your initial reaction? So when you found out about it and you found out it was bringing charges to the police, how did you react initially?
I told everybody, and anybody will tell you, I said it was bullshit. I said she was just doing it just to appease the people and to calm down the situation. That was it. She had no intentions of winning the case. She had no intentions of beating or sending them police officers to jail. The state's attorney works with the police hand in hand so much, how is she going to bite the hand that feeds her? How many false imprisonments do you have across America and in Baltimore City and Baltimore County at the hands of the police and the state's attorney's office? They're not going to eat their own. Gave you a dog and pony show at the taxpayer's expense, spent a lot of money, and that's why she dropped the charges on the last 3, because she knew it was going to get worse before it got better. She was scared of another uprising. So she diffused the situation. She took the the fuse out the dynamite. And she was very disrespectful when she did what she did, saying that she wasn't going to prosecute the officers in Gilmore Projects. That was staged. That was staged by the media. They made everybody from Gilmore Projects stay on the other side of the street while they fooled that side of the street with people that supported her ideas. You feel me?
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I saw that video too.
And you seen me standing up in there in the middle of it. You seen me pull Justin Fenton's card. You seen my videos versus what you seen on mainstream media. Because I ain't going to get shut down. You're not going to shut us out of the narrative. You're not going to exclude us from the conversation. You're going to hear us if you like it or not.
Were you personally involved in the protests?
I was personally involved in a lot of protests.
So how did you find out about it?
We created it.
Okay. On social media?
Yeah, we went through social media. We said we're going to meet up, or if we heard something, we was going to plan and organize, and what we plan to organize around. You can look through the archives and see how many times Baltimore Block organized and where they organized and what they did. It speaks for itself. We took people in the inner harbor to make them uncomfortable where they was at. You know what I'm saying? Instead of marching around the inner harbor or whatever, we went directly to the inner harbor. We went directly to Orioles, Camden Yards. We went to 83. We went to disrupt their money. And that's the only thing that they respect, and that's the only thing that they fear is when you disrupt their money.
Okay, so my next question. Even though the national media has used a variety of terms to describe what happened last year, such as terms like demonstration, protest, riot, what term would you use to define it?
Tired of being tired. I call it a burp and not an uprising. I call it the exploitation of the black struggle because of our black tragedy. I would call it another ploy that the media used to make something bigger than what it was. The media, look at history in your archives. Those words that they use, riots, demonstration, those are the same words that they used in 1960 every time Martin Luther King showed up or Malcolm X showed up. You wanted to demonize the message and the messenger. You wanted to control the narrative. But those riots was caused because of the same civil ills that's going on now. Poverty, lack of housing, lack of education, mass incarceration, lack of jobs. So if the media ain't talking about that, then why you want to talk about the end results of what was created by those politicians, those police officers, those media corporations? It's like they put the pot on the fire and the pot blew off, and now everything that came out the pot is the pot's fault, not the people that cut the gas on, not the people that put all the mixtures in the mix, not the people that wrote the laws. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You created this situation. Now you want to blame the victim. Come on. It's been going on through history for how long?
Okay. My next question is, so I know you spoke of it before when you walked in, but I just want you to elaborate on it. The protests or the uprising or the tiredness, as you say, being an accumulation of all the victims that was affected of police brutality and victims of the justice system.
It was. You figure when it happened with Freddie Gray, it started out in the projects and they was mad in the projects. And you know how the projects is, they just don't give a fuck. So that's pretty much how it was when it spilled over there. It was uncontrolled rage. All right. It was uncontrolled rage that it was built up from an accumulation of restrictive movement, over policing in the black community, and injustice in the judicial system. You know what I'm saying? So they was tired of it. They exploded. That was that pot boiling over. And that pot went downtown. And when that pot went downtown, it scared white people. It scared white Baltimore. It disrupted their money. You feel me? So we had to calm that shit down. You call in the National Guard. You had people coming from New York, New Jersey. You had people coming here whiter than the snow that hit the ground to come beat black people down. And that's all they came here for.
eventually there was violence in the protest. So what do you think led to the violence?
The police led to the violence. The police created the violence. The violence started when the police shut down the schools and the buses and the mass transportation. You got kids that got to get to the other side of town, ain't got no way of getting home, and you told them to go for what you know. Then you threaten them and talk crazy to them. Dog, parents can't even talk threatening and crazy to their kids before they go off. You know what I'm saying? So they showed the police, here you go again. The media showed the kids throwing rocks at the police, but you didn't show the police throwing rocks at the kids. You also didn't show that you cut down the metro station, the main vein in the area at Mondawmin. Then you sit here and had all these police that were there, but you permitted the riot and the looting of Mondawmin Mall. The police sat there and watched that shit happen. So what is you part of the problem, part of the solution?
So after the uprisings, I'm transitioning to questions after the uprisings. So, do you feel like media and the television news, newspapers reported the events that happened fairly?
No. Mainstream media was looking for anything that was disruptive or negative. For every negative thing that you seen in the uprising, I can show you 100 people doing positive things in the community long before the uprising, during the uprising, after the uprising, and now. But all these activists that you seen during the uprising, where was they at before the uprising? Where was their activism before Freddie Gray got murdered? You know what I'm saying? When mainstream media put that camera on them and made them who they are today. You feel me? Where is their work? What is their worth in the community?
Okay. So has there been a change in the community as a result of the uprising? For example, an increase in grassroots activism, community policing, or the creation of police reform meetings?
There's been a plethora of police reform meetings, but that's a dog and pony show. But the thing that did come out of it was the grassroots movement. The more communities that are getting organized, that are getting politically involved, that are getting like Community United with Ray, like 300 Gangsters, you know what I'm saying? They're getting people that are getting involved in the community that are, got skin in the game, have a vested interest, and they're organizing so they can teach others to organize. So yeah, that's the positive that came out of it, was the grassroots. But the police brutality meetings, the Department of Justice, if this has been going on for this long, and it took Freddie Gray for it to come out, and you prove that this is a pattern of behavior, then shouldn't this be a criminal act instead of a civil act? Mm-hmm. If criminal act was happening, shouldn't they be prosecuting on a criminal level instead of a civil level? So my answer to that is, why are we even having a dog and pony show? Why aren't we charging them in federal court criminally? The same way that you did Rodney King's case federally in a criminal case. Convict them police the same way. Until you start convicting police of police brutality is never going to go away. They're going to continue to beat us, kill us, murder us, because there's no consequences of their actions. But to deter a black man from killing and murdering and doing any crime, you'll lock us away in a jail cell for the rest of our natural born lives.
So what meaning do you take away from the uprising? What does the uprising mean to you?
No voice, no hope. If you don't stand up against it, they're going to continue to walk over you. I don't condemn the violence in the uprising. I don't condone it, but I don't condemn it. It was necessary when the only thing that America's ever dealt with was when the people got tired and they sat here and fought against the power. And that's all the people did. They fought against the power. They had enough of it. They tired of the police beating them. They tired of the politicians ignoring them. So they had their voices heard. It's like we have an irrational equation. All right, you have a numerator and a denominator, right? And the numerator is supposed to be the top half, correct? And the denominator is the bottom half. Mm-hmm. The denominator is the people, and the numerator is the politicians in the justice system. Mm-hmm. They got it like we're serving them when they're supposed to be serving us. So they flipped that numerator and denominator and turned it into an irrational fraction by flipping it. it. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is that intellectually correct?
No. So now I'm going to transition to questions for the future. Do you think the city has recovered from the uprising?
No, I think the city is recovering. Because like I said, look at the things that the city is doing and the money that they gave Kevin Plank for. All right, here you go. The uprising. The city gave Sandtown money for this. It gave money for murals. It gave money for picnics. It gave money for back to school. It gave money for this. It gave money for that. But the money pales in comparison to the money that they was doing backroom deals with to give Kevin Plank that money for Port Covington. If you can sit here and spend all that money in Port Covington and spent all that money in Harbor East using that empowerment zone money in a white development area, why can't you do a mass renovation in the black community? Why are we always the ones that's getting last fed on the plate? You gave Port Covington $50 million to a billionaire. He got his underarm on NBA, NFL, baseball. He didn't need a TIF. That $54 million could have been put in Sandtown for new rec centers, job development, career development, you know what I'm saying? In the communities that needed it. Kevin Plank is a billionaire. Patarakis is a billionaire. You didn't need to give Patarakis no more money. You didn't need to give Kevin Plank no more money. You got to stop bleeding the black community dry and feeding that other white Baltimore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So are there any ways to help improve the relationship between African Americans and the judicial system?
You personally, everybody need to get their Constitution. Everybody needs to get the Constitution, read the Bill of Rights, read the amendments, learn the law. Ignorance of the law is no excuse of the law. Knowledge of the law is priceless. That's why lawyers get paid. All right? But if you learn the law and learn how to use the law, then the law is supposed to work for you. The bail system is corrupt. All right? Because if you look at the bail system in Baltimore County and Baltimore City, the majority of the people going to jail are black. The majority of the people that are getting bails are black. The numbers speak for themselves. All right. We do jail support. So we see the people coming out of there and they're people of color. They're not people who are white. You know what I'm saying? That bail system is messed up. The grand jury is messed up because our politicians like Kurt Anderson and the Maryland Black Caucus wrote in a bill 374, which denies the private citizens access to the grand jury. If you're denying private citizens access to the grand jury, then you're tying our hands to due process and equal protections under the law. Because that means that a person can go to the grand jury. That means that the state's attorney can decide who goes to in front of the grand jury. By the state's attorney having that prosecutorial discretion gives him the right to choose who goes to court and who don't. That's too much power for one person. You feel me? And if a private citizen has evidence and it's his right to go in front of the grand jury and bring charges against those political figures. It's my right to bring charges against police officers. But if you stacking a deck against the people, here comes that irrational fraction again. Who controls the court? Who controls access to the court?
Okay. So my next question is, what is one thing that you want future generations to know about race relations in America, specifically Baltimore?
I want the future generations to know about the past generation's struggle, because all we're doing is repeating it. And because we didn't teach y'all about our past relationships and our past racial struggle, because in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, we got caught up with materialistic things instead of our African heritage, then we need to teach y'all about what happened yesterday so tomorrow y'all know what to do with it when you see it.
And my last question is, what is one thing that you want? Oh, that's the same thing. It's the same question. Thank you for the interview.
And thank you for listening. Tell them where they can find this again and when they can find it.
So the Maryland Historical Society of the Preserved Baltimore Uprising, here's the website, BaltimoreUprising2015.org. And here you will find other interviews as well as pictures that people have taken.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you. See? That was painless. Now, anybody got a problem with what I said? Dog, it's archived. Speak to the truth. Truth gonna speak to power. 2016, we're gonna control the narrative. We're gonna start shutting mainstream media down. I'll go to jail for the right reasons. This is one of them. Gotta go to work. Headed out to Brooklyn.
Thank you for the interview.
Thank you for giving me a voice.